Yes, welcome everyone to the Hungry Club. We want to make sure we get started right away. If you are doing business, make sure you pass your business cards around. Rossi Enterprise Fund is in the house, which is Jamel Hamilton. Also, we got Martine. You're thinking about going to Africa, Ghana, you really should connect with Martine. We actually plan on going back to. We actually plan on going back to the 400-year anniversary.
2019.
Yes. So the Community Healing Network with Noah Ear and Dr. Giles is actually doing a global tour. One of the stops will be in Fort Virginia. Also, we'll be going to one of the stops will be in Omaha, even though it was not an entry point. Also, Ghana, Nigeria, Haiti, Cuba.
Nice.
So we're excited to have this tour stop in Omaha, Nebraska. This will take place September the 19th to the 22nd. So we already got the funding for it, and we are actually doing a trainer with Dr. Giles because of the trauma that we've been affected by. So much so that it's literally changed our DNA. So we're going to talk about how racism has affected Black folks and people of color. And I think that's why we're having a conversation for the first time around, well, not for the first time, around reparations, really in the mainstream, if you will. But with that being said, I really want to bring forward Dr. Robinson from the UNO Black Studies Department. She'll do a brief introduction and take as much time as she wants, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It really doesn't matter. And really interact and engage for any questions that you may have. So without further ado, Dr. Robinson.
Hey. Hello, I am honored to be at Big Mama's Kitchen to discuss whatever it is I am going to discuss today. And anything I discuss today is, of course, always going to have something to do with Black Studies. So this is my honor. It is a good time to be involved with Black Studies. I want to just tell you briefly about who I am. I am a native Omahaan, Cynthia Robinson, born and raised in northeast Omaha. I came into Black Studies I had read the book Roots by Alex Haley, and I was about 21 years old, and I just celebrated my 55th birthday over the weekend. So I was about 21 years old, and I had read the book Roots, and I didn't know anything about Black history. I was totally ignorant about Black history. I totally believed in white supremacy. I thought white people were better than Black people. I thought African people were inferior to European people, and that was just how I believed. And then I read the book Roots, and I was like, okay, this is the book, not the movie. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I just asked myself this question: why don't white people like Black people? I was 21, 22 years old, and I asked myself that question. And then that put me on the path to Black Studies, which I didn't know there was such a thing called Black Studies. So I'm living in Tommy Rose Garden Apartments, single parent. You know, sometimes you got to reach at rock bottom to really come to who you are, and that was what happened to me. And I then started reading all kinds of books on Black history and what my sister called the Black thing. We started watching documentaries and reading things, and I just started educating myself. This is before I went back to school and even heard of a discipline called Black Studies. And all along, I am finding out that I have been lied to about Black history. So I'm the person now that's going to stop you at the grocery store. Did you know? Did you know that Egypt isn't in Africa. Did you know that black people did this? Did you know? So that was who I was. Then somebody told me, they said, there's something that you would know called Black Studies, and you can major in it. You can major in this? Why hadn't I heard about it? So anyway, I was a Goodrich Scholarship student when I was 18, and then I had dropped out, and I went back. I was 27 years old by this time. So I go back to school, and I start majoring in Black Studies. And then I really begin to understand why white people don't like black people. And the answer to that is race. White people are taught to not like black people. So I'm talking about from an American perspective. I'm not talking about from the origin of race, the beginning of race. But the average white child born in this country is taught to not like black people. So that then put me on a path to education. And I realized that part of it is the reason why white supremacy can go on is because it is based on ignorance. As long as you don't know black history, or even European history, if you don't really know that history, you can be told anything. So that is how then I began to try to educate other people, and I then decided to be a professor. And so that's how I became a professor teaching Black Studies. And then my PhD is in communication studies, and so I then began to understand, the way people are able to be lied to, the way you are able to manipulate people is through cultural dominance. Images on the big screen, what you put in the educational textbooks. So then I really was able to put all of these things together and understand really how we can combat racism. And so the number one, there are three main things about majoring in Black Studies or minoring in Black Studies or understanding Black Studies or just learning your Black history, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing. If you're not in school and you are sitting at home, you can still study Black history. You don't have to be at the university and major in Black Studies to read and to educate yourself. The very first thing that I learned, and what you will learn if you major or if you read about Black history and begin to understand it, is it expands your worldview. I had no idea what Egypt was, first of all. I had no idea about the Moors. I didn't know about ancient African civilization. I thought that Europe was, what Europe pretends to be. And I didn't know what Africa was. So it expanded my worldview. The second thing that it did, because now, when you know your history, you know your greatness. So now it made its intrinsic value, and it makes you feel better about yourself. It's really good for Black identity. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Be proud of who you are. When you know your history, you know your greatness. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, and which is most important for this conversation, after your worldview is expanded, and after you know your history and know your greatness, this will then help you navigate institutional racism in this country. It will help you better understand racism and better understand how racism works and how global racism works. And so that then put me on this life mission to really educate people. And so this is why I love my job as a professor. And I educate not just students, but I educate faculty, I educate administration. I want people, and it's really good for me to be back in Black Studies, to be a chair of Black Studies now for the last, since 2015, because it allows me to be fully back in Black Studies. Like, wow, we can talk about this stuff. Sometimes we are not supposed to talk about being Black and what it is, how it is. You're not supposed to use the word racism and, call people out for being racist. And God forbid you say white supremacy and that kind of stuff. So being in Black Studies allows me the umbrella of Black Studies. So it's a freedom to really fully engage myself in that. So that is what I really love about that. And my background is I double majored Black studies in broadcast production. When I came back to school when I was 27. So I came back in 1991 and I never left. And I've been at UNO since 1991. It's a long time, I know. My youngest child was 6 months old and he is 28 years old now. So that's how long I've been at school. My master's is in urban studies and my doctorate from UNL is in communication studies. And communication studies, again, help me understand the identity side of it. How cultural dominance works. Almost, I would use this analogy of a pimp. How does a pimp get someone to stand outside in the cold, below zero weather, put their life in jeopardy, and make money for the pimp and bring the money back to the pimp? You got to get inside someone's head for that. Being a predator, that is how racism works. It has to get into your head and make you it makes, first of all, black people think that they are inferior. It has to get into their head to do that. And also make white people think they are superior. So that's the communication studies side of it. So I merge black studies and communication studies all the time. I am as much black studies as I am communication studies, and I'm as much communication studies as I am black studies. And I tell people I teach everything from public speaking to slavery and race relations. But all of it has a foundation for me of wanting to educate people about black history. So that's who I am. If there are any questions, I don't know how much time we have.
About 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah, great. That's the first time I really heard that type of analogy, the pimp type of getting into your head. How is that mindset perpetuated outside of the violence that they perpetrate on us? How is that generationally stabilized and used as a direction in life? If we have any sanity at all.
So, are you asking me how white supremacy is normalized?
Why is it that we as a people, at this time and space, still maintain that same normality if anything other than we are totally mentally ill?
Because we are totally mentally ill. Black people, African Americans in this country, you guys, we were enslaved longer than we were not enslaved. And then 100 years of Jim Crow. We all receive the same messages of black inferiority. And on the plantation, to begin from the plantation, we straighten our hair for that reason. We got to think about light skin for that reason. We got to think about dark skin for that reason. We really want white people to like us. We want to live in their neighborhoods. We want to go to their schools. We want to be a part of their organization. We really want white people to like us. That began on the plantation. There was a French philosopher, who came during the, I want to say early 1800s, or late 1700s. But when he came to visit what he called the New World, he wanted to see this new country. And he comes and he notices Native Americans and African Americans. And he says, you've got the one group of people who really the whites want to be a part of their communities, who whites want to embrace, and they don't want to have anything to do with white people. He was talking about Native Americans. And then you got the group of people who whites don't want to have anything to do with except to make money off of, and they really want to be accepted by white people. And then you talk about African Americans. That's our problem. Our problem is we really want white people to like us. We really believe in white supremacy ourselves. And it's because of our educational system. It's because of our media images. A lot of it is because of Christianity, religion. That plays a big role in that. I grew up with the blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus on the wall of my grandmother's house. And also on our church, at our church, all of it coming from the plantation. It really was what, the slave master wanted it to be, all of that work. And we still hold on to those images. We need to get away from that. And one of the things that we can do is if we understand our history and understand who we are, and understand that we are the mothers and fathers of civilization, I think that that should help us, that will help us be empowered to stop trying to be accepted by people who don't like you. You know, just imagine yourself as a child and want to hang out with the popular group who don't want to have nothing to do with you. You're going to have to learn how to get your own set of friends, get your own, self-worth, and that's really what it is. Black people, for all our swag, for all our strength, for all our whatever, when it comes to a lot of things, we have low self-esteem in who we are. And so we run away from our blackness, and this, of course, we were taught to do it. We run away from our Africanness. We don't like our lips and our, hair and our African features, and all of that is from the plantation. And again, 100 years of Jim Crow. So now that we know that, the role, the job of the educational system is to educate us about things, but we are miseducated. So this is why you need a Black Studies. We're trying to get Black Studies implemented in K through 12. Really trying to get that. So that's so important. We were just in parade, Mama did parade Black Studies and Black UNO. Why do we need to march down the street and say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud? Because of so many negative images of Black people. And that's why we need to empower ourselves. Stop running behind white people who don't like you. And I'm not saying every individual white person, but I'm saying we need as a group collectively to like ourselves first.
With the President Trump and all the rhetoric that he is spewing, how is that affecting how you teach?
It fills my classes. It is really, really good, again, to be able to have these discussions out here. I'm at UNO, which is a predominantly white institution, predominantly white campus. And sometimes, even though it's an academic institution, some things are lost in the prettiness. And so you're not supposed, so I created a couple courses that involve race. The one course I created was race, ethnicity, and identity. And that was a fight, but I got it cross-listed. I've been communication faculty for 18 years. I got the course cross-listed between communication and Black Studies. And I also then created a course at the same time called Cultural Communication and African American Cinema, where we look at, the origin of really Hollywood and how they treated blacks in the cinema. We watched Birth of a Nation and things like that. And that again was a fight, but those two courses did get approved. And so in those courses, I have communication students and Black Studies students. And most of the communication students are white. And so I will have my white male students, their communication, and they're like, they want to know. They want to know, and I want to say this, if we're going to talk about race and racism. No child, so all whites are born into white privilege, but they're not born racist. That is something that is taught. And then there is a difference between being a recipient of privilege and being hate-filled. I don't see that. I do have that sometimes in my classes, but I don't see that regularly. So I tell Black people that I talk to, no, I don't believe all white people are racist. Now, all white people are born into white privilege. But racism is an act. It's a substance. But I do think that white males are coddled. White males are like that spoiled favorite child of the parents that gets to get away with anything, gets to literally get away with murder. And we do a disservice by not speaking out about that, So with Trump in the office, he's just, turned the lights on and let the roaches, you just saw the roaches that were already there. He just turned the lights on, and now the roaches are scattering, they're coming out, but they were already there. He did not, Donald Trump did not invent racism. And you you guys want me to tell you my history, what I know about history of race? Okay, so race, the definition of race is white supremacy. It's the concept of white superiority. Race was invented in, I want to say 1400s by the Germans, or at least a German philosopher. It is a response to anyone with African ancestry. So it has to do with the Moors, and it has to do with Jews. And the darker you are, and I'm talking about amongst Europeans, the further, or the less, or the I hate to say total pole, but that's what I mean. So the lower you are. So that is the origin of race. Light, it is a skin color hierarchy. Your hair is lighter, your eyes are lighter. The lighter and brighter you are, the more better you are, the prettier you are, the smarter you are. These are all lies, but this is the concept of race. That's the understanding of race. But the Germans, this German philosopher, the Europeans, period, because the French adopted it, the Swedes adopted it, the British, of course, but they didn't invent racism the way we know it. That is a result of the transatlantic slave trade, or even before that, Europeans coming here and seeing the people who are already here and trying to figure out, what are we going to call them? Because, you know, they're not like us, but okay, we want to say that they're this, but they're not Christian, they're not fully human, we think. So even that, Christopher Columbus starting that, and then taking the people back and having this, okay, so there's that. But the real crux of it comes from the transatlantic slave trade. First of all, it gave Europeans money to be able to really fuel global racism, to colonize and imperialize other nations all over the earth. But the most important thing was to have to justify a system of bondage which was old when Moses was young. Slavery was old when Moses was young. So you have to justify, now we are only doing that to people with black skin or with dark skin. And so, oh yeah, they're not human. Oh yeah, they're a different species. Oh yeah, let's look at what it says in the Bible, by the way that Europeans wrote. Oh, look at what it says right here. Oh, look at what this says right here. And so that is how that system comes about. And so the Germans and other Europeans invented the concept of race as a skin color hierarchy, and straight hair and blonde hair and blue eyes, you know, northwestern European looking. That's the concept of race. And then white Americans invented racism, which is the institutional, the structure that holds together white supremacy. So this is the white only. This is the, you know, only white people can do this. This is the, you know, Plessy versus Ferguson. This is the Dred Scott decision. And it's just a series of laws, patterns, and practices that get into people's head, and then it becomes norms. Of course black people go in the back door, as Carter G. Woodson said. You've taught them to go in the back door. So they're always going to go in the back door, you know, and that's what the thing is. And of course white people think they're better. You've taught them that they're better. And this is just the concept of race and racism. But it is a made-up ideology based on a lie, and really, as Francis Creswell will tell you, it has to do with white genetic annihilation. And, you know, they're even really talking about it out and out in the open, you know. It's an invasion of brown people coming to the country. They're going to replace us. So that's real deep, real deep. I suggest you read the ISIS papers if you want to go deep into that.
When I first saw the T-shirts that their department put out, it was an extreme case of deja vu, because the term "say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud" is 50 years old. Why would you use that particular symbolism when, after 50 years, it has had no effect?
Because we have a different generation of young people today that when we came off the plantation and out of 100 years of Jim Crow, we were still on the plantation. And so even Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, James Brown, you know, he also had this song, you know, about keeping that, you know, your hair natural, you know, keep that conk out your hair, and then his hair was straightened as well. The political things get in the way of progress when it comes to Black people actually becoming free mentally from the psychological chains and images, as Dr. Nani Makwar said, of slavery. And so that's why I came out with, we started something at UNO called Black UNO, right? We started that in 2016, I want to say, 2015 or 2016. We started something called Black UNO. And one of the guys in the audience, you know, we passed the mic around. This is at Mr. Social. We're going to have this like the second week of September. You know, it's just a social. We passed the mic around and people, whatever. So this guy gave the mic to a guy and he just took the mic and he said, "Say it loud." And those of us who were older, you know, we said, "I'm Black and I'm proud." Well, the younger people hadn't heard that. So then we said it again. I said, "Say it loud." And then people go, "Okay, I'm Black and I'm proud." So trying to figure out how to keep Black pride going. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud works. Also, we were, you know, don't freak, you know, let me put some Black up in it, you know, we said all that, you know, Black, you know, all of that works. It's all about Black identity. We also said, I am Black studies, I am Black excellence. You know, you are Black studies, you are Black excellence. To try to put positive energy into Black people, into what we are and how we see Blackness. So that's why we still, it should still work. I mean, you know, it still should still function. The number one thing, as people know about self-esteem, is you have to like yourself. That's the number one thing. You must like you. So Black people, we must like ourselves. So that's why Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud is something that 50 years later we can still say. And if we have to say it 50 years from now, we can say it.
Well, how do we keep our kids that? Because the fact is, our kids have looked at our history and they've learned how we marched for our freedom during the time when King was coming up, and the march of Montgomery, the boycott, his assassination during the time when the Black Panthers were coming out. They would talk about fighting. They gave King a chance to say, okay, we're going to try his nonviolent technique, but when he was killed, they all changed their activities. And then we see that today in our kids, the music and the movie today. During this time, the kids we didn't have much movies, but then in the 70s, we first out with all these negative movies, Superfly, Shaft, Cool Breeze, all these type of movies that all showed about we were violent, drug pushers, pimps, hustlers, and we would shoot people right out in front of you, right out in front of everybody. And we got today youth. Then we got there's a many of them that I can't even think of at the moment. These kids today say, "Hey, this is the way life is. I can't change it." And so you talk about doing civil rights. You said you bring rights and equality to us. Now the man still got his foot on my neck. The cops ain't got no respect for them. These guys beating us down.
Do you have a
We're
question?
tired.
Ron, you got a question?
The question is, how do we teach these kids how to be Black and proud when they say Black and proud ain't no more?
My answer, of course, always goes back to education. Always go back to education. Every single thing that you just said, I totally agree with. And this is part of the struggle of becoming full in this country. It's just a struggle. I think it starts at home. I think it starts at home, in our homes, in our families. I think it starts in our schools. I think that's where it starts. I think racism is like an elephant, you know, or I don't want to say an elephant, but something big. If you're trying to bring that, something, you know, like if you look at the Animal Planet and they're trying to bring down these big wildebeest, you know, 6 or 7 lions, one get them from the front, a couple from the side, a couple. So I think racism is like that. I think it starts at home I think that, and I come from a home that, again, I was raised by my great-grandmother, so that says a lot about sort of the environment I grew up in. We have to instill who we are in our kids. We have to put that in them. And we have to constantly talk to our kids about history. I heard Dr. Eddie Glaude, who is chair of Black Studies at Princeton, he was on MSNBC yesterday. He was talking about, growing up with myths and legends of white supremacy, and, our founding fathers, and, it was a great country and all that. And he said, in my home, we understood that it was a myth and a legend, and that it was a lie, it was based on a lie. So we talked about that in my home. And so we didn't let those things get to us in the way that so the violent way of, you out maybe selling drugs, or you out, just with no hope, or things like that. A lot of that stuff is in the family, and it's in the home. And so the family has to get it. And I mean, it just is. You're not going to solve all of it by telling people, you are loved and you are wonderful and all the rest of that. You're going to have to parent your child, and you're going to have to maybe stay home sometimes and stay with your child and parent your child and help your child understand things so that when they grow up, they can get that side of it. The big part of it is in the educational system, K through 12. You are taught Christopher Columbus, Columbus Day is coming up in October or whatever. You're taught, these were great people and wonderful people. That's a lie. When you come home, you should be able to have those discussions with your family members. Some family members, your mother, father, grandma, big sister, big brother, auntie, somebody. And should be able, somebody in your family is going to have to be able to help educate you so that you don't lose hope, so that you don't want to go outside of rightness and go towards wrongness, so that you don't give up. Because that's really what it is. We all have that in our family, or we have all struggled with that ourselves. And that, I think, is part of the struggle. It's like, this went on for centuries and centuries, and so it is a tedious thing. The main thing is to not give up. And this right here can work, and that over here can work, and some people are going to take it this way, and some people are going to take it from up under here. But the main thing is we're all trying to get to this main solution. So I'm saying that there is no one way, but I definitely agree with everything that you said, and it has to be done. We have to figure out how to reach this new generation. So that's why I was asking the students behind me, the students as we were walking down the street in the parade, hey, you guys, what do you guys think about this chat? Oh, Dr. Robinson, can we say it this way? Yes, you can. Well, what do y'all think about this right here? Yeah, well, we want to do this. Okay. Because it's not going to work without them. And sometimes I think our leaders have let us down because our leaders are so busy trying to assimilate, and our leaders want to be accepted. And sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes we are our worst enemy. We will sell us out. We will dog us out. So.
When I asked the question about the 50-year period of time, you kind of got to the issue that is really concerning me. We recognize that we are in a genocidal state. All the statistics show that we are at an extreme genocidal state. Prime example, 72% of all households in our community are single-parent households. We have no control over any school system whatsoever. The laws that are placed here in Nebraska are synonymous with all the laws. We have early childhood development. We have no daycares unless they're huge daycares. Our children are out of our hands at 3 years old. They just changed when you are in a foster care. They just changed the foster care rules. They identified that African American males aging out of foster care have serious issues. So they changed the age from 18 to 25. You stay in foster care till you're 25 years old. So if we are not in control of our children from 3 until 25, how can we depend upon the youth with their mindset to take the kind of directions to get us into a mindset of understanding what black and proud really means?
Well, we can't. That's not going to happen. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm 55. I've got a 40-year-old. I've got a 39-year-old. I've got a 34-year-old next month. And I've got a 28-year-old. Now, if you do the math, and carry the 1 and divide it by 3 and all of that, you will know that I had a baby at 14 and a baby at 15. Myself and all of my children all graduated high school on time. And 3 of my 4 kids have gone to college. I'm telling you, you got to give it to your child straight, no chaser. Use that street sense that we have to give it to them, but don't be your kid's friend. Don't party with your kids. Don't hang out with your kids like that to where your child doesn't respect you, and then fight to keep your family together. You know, you're gonna have to now. You don't keep get passes all the time. You're going to have to, because your children are our future, and it's your responsibility. It's our responsibility to make this happen. And so they're not going to get it if they're this and that. You can't, you know, all of that dysfunctionality, and again, I grew up with a whole lot of it. I grew up in Logan 5 Mill Projects, and my grandmother lived next door to the Belly High Lounge, and my mother lived in the Logan 5 Mill Projects, and I had the funnest childhood ever. But I was a teen parent twice, because my environment was what my environment was, and I already told you I grew up not knowing anything about Black history. Because my environment was what my environment was. I grew up Pentecostal, and you know, going to church all the time, but not really understanding things. We got to today, again, that was a different day. Today, we have more agency, grown-ups. We do. We can talk to our kids. Our kids have an educational system that we didn't have. They have access to information. I'm on the Will Brown committee. The 100-year lynching of Will Brown Centennial was this year. I Googled the Omaha Bee, the original article, September 29, 1919. You can find that. So some of this we have to do ourselves, and we have to hold ourselves accountable and responsible. We have to, and we can't keep saying they won't let us, and they, because they didn't ever expect me to have a PhD. I guarantee you that, and I do. And I always will say, if I know if I can do it, it's possible for others. I remember my daughter, she was a senior in high school, and she said, "Mom, how are we going to pay for college?" And I just said, if you get in, the money will come. Because I knew if I was in college and I could go, and I was the first in my family to do that, well, then I knew that she could go. And so she did. My daughter just bought a $500,000 house in Waldorf, Maryland. You can't look at her and tell her mother was 14, because she didn't stay there. I didn't stay there, and you don't have to stay there, not just talking about me, but I know other people like that too. So you can't, I don't care what your life was, I don't care what happened to you last month, last year, 6 years ago. We have a faculty member that will tell you he did time, and he is, you know, okay, that's what I did, but now I'm, you know. So that's the thing, it's like all the things that have happened to Black people in this country. You know, the criminal justice system is racist. The educational system is racist. Coming to America for us is racist. You know, the very first, you know, we talk about illegal immigrants. Europeans were the first illegal immigrants. And they imported African immigrants, or African enslaved people in. Right? All of it has been ugly and racist and some other stuff. But okay. So, you know, so it is a constant struggle. It is a constant fight. But you have to keep doing it. And as Harriet Tubman said, when you hear the dogs, keep moving. Whatever it is, don't give up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. You said that courses that, well, with the courses that you teach at UNO, of course with UNO being a predominantly white institution, white university, how would you describe, it's kind of a two-part question. So one, how would you describe the culture at UNO with regards to relationships between blacks and whites, and also I'm assuming you have a mix in your courses. How would you describe the reaction, the responses, the type of questions that you get with regards to the subject matter of your course?
Very, very interesting. So the first question is how UNO is a predominantly white institution in a predominantly white part of town, in a predominantly white city, in an almost all white state, one of the reddest, most conservative states of the country. The Department of Black Studies is one of the few remaining Black Studies departments in the country, and I believe it is the only Department of Black Studies in like a 300-mile radius. So, what happens if you want to talk about the relationship between blacks and whites? First of all, I'm a Goodrich Scholarship student, so that's a whole separate thing. Goodrich is more inclusive and diverse, and was a savior to a lot of us non-white students. So that's that situation. If you want to talk about the relationship between just blacks and whites, and let's just say faculty or faculty member, let's say your area is math. You're a mathematician. The math department is not hiring black people today. Go over to Black Studies and go teach in Black Studies is what the math department might tell you, or the psychology department, or the English department. So that's part of the problem at UNO, okay? It's almost like they don't know what to do with black faculty who are not Black Studies. That's what I will say. And this is an institution, by the way, that has been very good to me. My son is also a Goodrich Scholarship graduate. I never left UNO because UNO was so good to me. So when I critique UNO, I'm saying again, this institution has been very good to me, and it still is. But as I just said, if you are your area is microbiology, well, sorry, we already hired our black person in the biology department. So go over to Black Studies. Now, your faculty, you got to come over to Black Studies because you want to be a professor. Okay, you're black. You're like, okay, I may have to get something. You come over to Black Studies and you got to teach the intro to Black Studies, but you're microbiologist or mathematician or whatever it is. You're not Black Studies. That affects your teaching style. It affects how you see yourself on that campus, and it for sure affects how people see Black Studies. Okay, so now I was a student up under a lot of that. I didn't have any Black Studies faculty that were real Black Studies. It's just that's just how it was, right? Because as I just told you, that's a lot how you might get hired. Your area is PE. Your area is PE. That's what you do. Your PhD is in PE. Yeah, PE department already hired your black person for the next 20 years. But you know what? As the dean might tell you, come on over to Black Studies. Let me make a phone call. Cynthia, we're going to send somebody over to Black Studies whose area is PE. And we want you to put them on the schedule to teach Black Studies. Okay, depending on who it is. I'm not going to do that. But depending on who it is, So that's one thing. In the classroom, now it depends on who you are. Communication has helped me a lot. That discipline of communication helps me understand folks' thought processes, why they say the things they do and how they are the way they are. So I taught a course just this last spring, race, ethnicity, identity. I had Trump supporters in the class as well as Black Studies majors, right? So it was a good mix of students. And it's always the case when whites are a minority in a classroom or not the majority in a classroom, they're apologetic, they're defensive, and they're a little bit angry, you know. So we had a discussion about racism. Somehow that turned into a discussion about gun rights. And so well, why is it okay for you to, one of my students, he said, I have 32 guns. And I'm saying to him, just tell me up here what's going on. Are you at war? Why do you have 32 guns? I have the right. So that is the thing. And so then you got black students who, okay, well, what about Tamir Rice? Okay, then you got somebody who broke out crying, the white female, oh my God, I didn't. So these little things happen. But it's my job to sort of try to curb that, right? When I was a student and I took courses, some of my favorite professors, the best professors, were ones that allowed these discussions to take place, but not get out of hand, as long as they stay on topic, as long as it's still about whatever. Because the way that our country is set up, the way that race operates is, whites are just as ignorant. And if you're coming from small town Nebraska, small town Kansas, small town Iowa, never having seen black people except on TV or once you got to the big city of Omaha, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So both of these things are true, and they exist in the same classroom. And so it's a little navigational system. I show a lot of documentaries, and it's hard to argue with documentaries. I showed the documentary Get Roger Stone. Rather than me tell you all about Trump and Make America Great Again and all of that, I'm going to show you the documentary Get Roger Stone. White people, so you can see how you've been played. And then let's write a paper about it. And sometimes, a lot of times, people will say things in their paper, they will write things that they will never say. So little things like that. I strive for academic excellence. I don't let white people beat up on black people, and I don't let black people beat up on white people in my class. I don't let people use the words illegal aliens in my class. You write a paper and you give a speech about immigration. If you want to say illegal immigration or illegal immigrants, okay. But if you use the word alien, your letter grade will be dropped, or your grade will be dropped on letter grade. You will respect all of us as part of the student family. And I get a lot of that from the Goodrich Scholarship Program. Learning how to navigate these discussions. Dr. Pam Smith, who just retired, was one of my favorite professors ever. And she actually mentored me from freshman all the way through the dissertation process. And so she helped me, you can get your point across, you can get the educational piece out there without turning people off. And without giving up who you are, your insides, who you are. Does that answer your question? Okay.
What about if you're trying to teach those young adults or older adults some have reading writing, you have programs like those, try to get their GED, and it's called slave education, learn how to read and write. That way they can help you understand.
Yeah. Well, we are trying to get black studies in the community, at the Highlander or any church or something like that, after school programs or some places in the community. But I tell people, I'm black studies and communication, I'm a professor. I can lead you to some other people who can teach you some other stuff. Yes. If you're talking about basic reading and writing skills, that's not my area, but I can certainly find some people whose area that is. And parenting things and things like that will help us. I always volunteer myself for anything that I can discuss. But things that I cannot, that's not my area, I will try to find someone whose area that is. That's what I would say.
What are your thoughts about teaching our youth and then adults that may be in class about entrepreneurship as it relates to our Africans, our ancestors? Because I've been to Ghana several times, And I can tell you about 70% of the people that live there are entrepreneurs. And they are, in my opinion, the original entrepreneurs. And so could that help shape our youth? And some of those knew who we were, our ancestors are. We are people of power. We can start our own business. We can really escalate our future if we only knew that we had the ability to do so. We come from a family of human beings. Why should we be doing that now? We struggle working, 9 to 5. Sometimes we have 2 jobs, things like that. So if they only knew, if people only knew how powerful our ancestors are, could that help shape the future of our youth here in America?
I absolutely think that. It's like if that's part of know your history, know your greatness. So if you know the origin of medicine, the origin of mathematics, if you know about entrepreneurship and the role of Africans in that and the relationship in that. Absolutely. Cherry Jackson Miller, who is one of our longtime adjunct instructors, just created a course called Business and Economics in African American Communities. And that course is either going to be taught in the spring or next fall. But in creating the master syllabus for the course, she, points out, there were entrepreneurs during slavery, and things like that. So yes, absolutely that can help. And that's why all of it is so important. Every aspect of it is so important. Because we are always taught, my vision, my thought about Black history, about enslaved people, about African people, the inferiority part is always a weakness. It's always, we shall overcome, we're half naked and we're living in the huts and we're living in the jungle, or we're eating animals that, other people don't eat, or whatever the stereotypes are. We're not taught about the civilization part. We're just not taught that. There is a reason why Egypt was always taken out of Africa. World Civ 1, World Civ 2 that they teach you know. World Civ 1 is, before Europeans discovered the rest of the world. And then World Civ 2 is European exploration. But in World Civ 1, World Civilization 1, there's a separate section on Egypt. And if you don't know better, you don't know that Egypt is that Egypt is part of Africa. And so you're not taught that kind of stuff because people don't want you to know that. Absolutely. And that's why the trips to Ghana are so important. The trips to Egypt are so important. So you can see the African features on the ancient Egyptian statues, so that you can understand this historical piece about entrepreneurship. Absolutely, it's important. Know your history, know your greatness,
Identity, you talk about that a lot during your presentation, and how that's tied to self-esteem. What can we do to better educate ourselves about history, per se? And the reason why I say that is so many folks are graduating high school and can't read their diploma. So how can they learn about some of the things that you talk about when the educational system, we know it, is actually failing?
So that's kind of what he was saying about that. Now, I'm just going to say this. If you are 15 years old and you're 15 and you can't read, you're old enough to go and get yourself some help. You want to read? Come on. It's 2019. Some of this is on us. It's on us. Some of it is on us. We can't just, we know the educational system was never set up for Black people to succeed. So we can't just say the educational system fails us. Of course it does. But it is still there, as I just told someone. And we pay our taxes to support it. It is there. We have to make it be what we need it to be. Right? But if you are 15 and 16 years old, put your shame away. Take yourself and get yourself into a reading class. Go online, your little brother's tablet or whatever, and take some, ABC mouse classes or whatever, and learn to read in 2019. Because you can do that. If people who couldn't read learn to read, in 1919. I know today, some of this stuff you can get yourself. Let me tell you, I'm terrible at math. Horrific at math. That's why I can't play dominoes. Take me too long to count out the, you know. But I was reading since I don't ever remember learning how to read. I just knew how to read, right? That was my thing. And we tend to value reading over other things, right? But I don't, because I was raised by a great-grandmother that could not read. She was born in 1904. She went to the first grade. She made sure her kids, her grandkids, and her great-grandkids went to school. Two places you was going to Mother Hollis's house if you lived in her house. First place was school. What was the other place?
Church.
That's right, church. And I don't care if you was 45 years old, you lived in her house, you was going to church Tuesday night, Friday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night. That was a given. And don't let there be a revival. You had to be falling out, I'm telling you, to miss school. I had the mumps. They had to send me home to tell my grandmother, she has the mumps. Don't you let her come back here to Africa. Oh, okay, all right. But you going to school. So that was how she handled it. Some of this is on us. Now I would tell anybody, get it together, get yourself to school. If you today know you can't read, or if your reading is deficit, you know, if you have a reading deficit, if it's not what you want it to be, get yourself to where you want to be. And put your pride aside and do it. Put your pride aside and do it. Somebody back here, 3 people have their hand up right here. Which one?
Dr. Peggy Jones in your department has something going on at Coneco, and she's giving workshops. Would you speak to what's happening with her at Coneco?
Professor Jones, I have no idea what she's doing at Coneco. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Professor Peggy Jones is in our department though, but I don't know if it's part of Black Studies. I haven't heard she's doing anything that I would know about as far as Black Studies. Maybe it's part of Women's Studies. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't give more information. Somebody else had their hand up? Yes. Uh-oh.
I have a couple questions. If I understood you right, you said that you encourage black studies in school, but not brown.
What did you say? That I encourage you?
That we need to learn more about black, but not brown.
No, when did I say that?
Okay, then never mind. I mean, there was music going on and all that kind of, you know, so that's...
Black Studies is also Brown Studies.
Okay.
So,
all right, I'm with you.
Okay. And I saw 3 hands. Did you have your hand up, Tim, now? No? All 3? Okay, I saw them. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, anyway, yeah, we'd have to, about reading, and that has to be something constantly encouraged and kind of make a movement. Like I was involved in, and I hope to do it again with Real Men Read, Willie Hamilton, and we did some things in the schools, and the kids really enjoyed that. So I want to do that again. But part of, like you said earlier, when you have low self-esteem and you don't like yourself, and you need to have that self-love, develop that self-esteem. Then you're encouraged, to do more of your reading and really get into reading and review your math. You'll be more encouraged. But if you beat yourself down, you don't like yourself, and then you're kind of embarrassed because people going to see that you can't read. So this has to be a movement so that we can work on correcting that and get that self-love and develop that self-esteem. Then you're going to have some very powerful readers.
If you have ever been, this is identity again. If you have ever been what you don't want to be, if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, an unhealthy situation, a job that was killing you, an environment that was toxic, If you've ever been in any of those situations, step one to getting out of those situations, any sort of abuse, drug abuse, alcohol, anything, step one is what? Looking in that mirror and saying, this is what's wrong. This is who I am. This is what I need to change. First thing you have to do, you have to, I don't care if you're 50 years old, 55 years old, if you cannot read today in 2019, you can learn to read today in 2019. And you have to know that. And so, and that's the very first step in, because, you know, a lot of our knowledge is printed knowledge. Even if it's printed online, it's a written word, you know. And there's power in the written language. There's power in the printed word, power in the written word. And a lot of hidden stuff, a lot of information that someone might not tell you, you can go read for yourself, you know. So that's why that's so important. Any other questions? Or is my time? What's 103? Yes, ma'am. Last 2 questions. Last question here. Go ahead, ma'am. Right here. Yes.
Well, I don't do that. You don't say nothing.
I would like to have your advice. To me as a white person, when I am at Black History events, and I'm embarrassed that I know more than the Black History speech. What do you suggest? I mean, should I just keep my mouth shut? Should I say something? You know, I mean, it's a sensitive. You know what I'm saying?
You know what we need? If you're an advocate for Black history, we need white people to advocate to white people in power.
No, I do.
For Black history. No, for
But
real.
what I'm talking about when I'm at this event, I mean, there was an event where this former city council person, I was embarrassed for her.
Yeah,
I mean, a black city council, I mean, it
Yeah.
was just kind of real weird.
yeah. I mean, you know, that's on you. I probably wouldn't call out individuals like that. But what I would
Well,
say.
that's why I said I don't want that.
Yeah,
you know
but
I mean?
what I would say in a larger perspective is, I always say use your powers for good. If you have power, and all of us do, but use your power for good, and you as a white person can tell white people in power what you just said to me. These black people, they don't know Black history like they should. I know more about Black history, like how is that? So this city council person, that might be one person, but we're talking about the other students who also don't know, right? And we're all taught the same lies. So if you're an advocate for Black studies and for Black history, I always tell white people, we need white people to speak truth to power to white people in power. And so that's what I would say. But at that event, I would not call out the person. I wouldn't say, you know, I know more about
and
that.
I did.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is to speak as a, from your perspective, to speak truth to white people in power, but keep my mouth shut talking to black people.
No, you said keep your mouth shut. But
No,
I'm not
I'm
saying keep
asking your
mouth shut.
opinion. I mean, I'm ignorant. I truly am sincere.
I don't think that it's either or, but I'm saying,
okay.
I mean, you know, it just depends. If you knew the person, you can take them aside. You know what you said wasn't right. You know this person right here, or you might know another black person. You know what this person right here said wasn't true. But I'm saying, if you are an advocate, because we need more of those. If you are an advocate, if you're an anti-racist advocate, anti-racism advocate, if you're an advocate for Black studies and Black history, if you're an advocate for that kind of knowledge, we need you to advocate that to white people in power who will listen to you, maybe more so than they will listen to me. Yeah. And also at the dinner table, at the church, in your groups, you know. Okay, last question right here.
I just had you say you go to conferences and you meet with other professors. Is there any kind of like a national agenda, just like even a national from an academic standpoint on legislation? Because it's like the last time anything moved was in the 60s, and it's legislation. So it's going to take intelligent wealth versus whatever, all this other stuff that we're doing. If there has been any movement on that initiative?
Pardon?
You should speak to that. Thank you. More so than myself. Because my area is just education. So I can't tell you about public policy. I can tell you about the National Council of Black Studies. But, you know, it's all academic and not legislative.
But it kind of piggyback on the question I asked before. Programs like this are very important. That's why we tape them, because we get an understanding in some principal areas about some things that need to be dealt with. And with this kind of background, Sister Robinson has, and particularly in Black Studies, also in communications, it puts her in a very awkward spot. And I could ask her thousands of questions. The main question is, and I said this before, and it's hard for us to answer it, because to me it goes into a whole other different realm. If we go back to something that is 50 years ago and try to use it as a foundation to start a movement, if we recognize that there's no such animal, and understand what I'm saying, this is statistically wise and visually wise, if there's no such animal as black families anymore in our society, and when I use black families, I'm talking about the way that we are educated, you know, mother, father, one boy, one girl, puppy, two-car garage. That's the educational concept we have as a family. If that is non-existent in our community, if we recognize that the basic educational piece that we have, which is religion is what so-called brought us out of slavery. Religion is the thing we use to stabilize values as it applies to anything we absorb. Then where does the intuitiveness come for us as a 15-year-old black male or female who can't read to do that? Where does that come from? Particularly when all you got to do is sit down and pick up a phone and you can get anything that you need to get right there, not understanding that all that information is pre-programmed. That's to me is the genocidal delivery that we're in. And when I use the term genocidal, I really mean genocidal. Our biggest issue right now is 10 to 12 to 13-year-old males and females that are being arrested out of schools because the police department and the judicial system already know there is no family for them to go to. How do we move forward in that type of consciousness when schools like Omaha, Nebraska, 5 out of the 7 schools in our district are the lowest in the country in math and science, which means we cannot read? That kind of information to me plagues me, and that I don't understand where that intuitiveness for us to rise up is going to happen. That's why I say we are in genocide right now.
Well, you just said a mouthful. Dr. Robinson has been nice enough to really stay here and educate us about Black Studies. We need to be able to drive more students into the Black Studies department. So one of the questions, you probably don't have any time to answer it, is what are you doing to be able to get more Black students into UNL?
Well, when I started as chair, well, first of all, when I majored in Black Studies in '91, I maybe was one of 2 or 3 majors in Black Studies. When I became chair, there was 4 majors. I think we now have 16. Big thing I did, got a Bachelor of Science in Black Studies. The Bachelor of Art required a 2-year foreign language, and again, it's always European language. It was never any African language, and it really deterred people away from majoring in Black Studies. Also, the College of Continuing Studies, you don't need to major in Black Studies, because you can just go over to Continuing Studies and make that your area of emphasis, And the third thing, what really made people not major in Black studies, people are advised. Why would you major in Black studies? Advisors tell people don't major in Black studies. Family members, teachers, high school counselors don't major in Black studies. This is why we have the t-shirt drive going. This is why we strive for academic excellence. This is why we need to make Black studies exciting. So our numbers are way up as a result of, part of the reason why the Black Studies Department, and this is 45 years of Black Studies, 47 years, it is of Black Studies. Part of the reason is that Black Studies have struggled so much is because it wasn't cohesive enough, it wasn't strong enough. It was community, but it wasn't academic excellence. So my goal was to bring the university to the community to the university. But while we are on that campus, strive for academic excellence. So now we have a lot of students who come into Black Studies. We also have a lot of African students who come into Black Studies. And so the department is way more student-centered now than it ever was. We didn't have activity or things for Black Studies. It was always community people that would be there, not a lot of students. Now you have a whole lot of students there, and maybe not as many community people, right? So we're trying to get that balance because clearly people want Black Studies, and that's what I had said to the dean. They have been trying to get rid of Black Studies department, change it from a department to a program, and if it's a program, you can't major in it, and then it's just a way to get rid of Black Studies. But people want Black Studies. I wanted Black Studies. I needed a strong Black Studies department. So we have a lot of support on campus now, from the dean's office, from higher administration. I think me being, as someone said, indigenous to Omaha. I am the only Black Studies chair that I know of that majored in Black Studies, graduated, born in Omaha, majored in Black Studies, graduated from UNO as a Black Studies person, and then taught in Black Studies already. Normally what they would do is a national search and bring somebody somewhere who don't know our unique community of Omaha. And they weren't serious about it anyway, I'm saying administration. And so because most departments promote from within, And so that is one thing that I have been doing. The t-shirts, we got lanyards, we've got a nice banner down on the fence of Bryant Center. And we've got this hashtag I Am Black Studies. So the community has seen us in the last few parades. We have our curriculum is being overhauled. We are updating master syllabi. We are getting it. So we are on the move.
About partnering with Metro Community College and stuff like that, trying to get a Black Studies. That's what
So Metro has already partnered with UNO. I already taught I have actually taught Black Studies at Metro before. We have to strengthen Black Studies at UNO first. Make it strong at UNO first. I tell people, you come to the restaurant and you got macaroni and cheese on the menu, but we don't have macaroni and cheese in the kitchen. No. We need to, strengthen that kind of stuff. So that's what we've been doing. The real problem, honestly, brother, is we need full-time faculty who are excited about teaching at Black Studies at UNO. That's what we need. We need faculty who stay here, who want to be here, and who are Black Studies. And that's what we need. The university has not done a good job of recruiting Black Studies full-time faculty. Again, I just told you how you might get in. So it hasn't done a good job of that, and that has hurt the department. Coming from the Goodrich Scholarship Program and coming from the School of Communication, I guarantee you don't do a national search to find a chair. The faculty is not going to allow that, But I have found that they do things in Black Studies that they don't do in other departments. And so, being again from here, I can say, now if you're not from here, and they say, you can't do that, you're like, oh, wow, okay, I can't do that. but when you're from here, they say you can't do that. I said, but they're doing it right here. They've been doing it for 20 years. I saw that. I've seen that. So one example is just something simple. Communication, their door is open. When they are in there, the door is open. Oh, okay, that's good. Next thing you need to open our door. Facility said, oh, you can't open your door, it's a fire hazard. Well, wait. Right across the hall, their door is open. Oh, if we can't open our door, every door in this campus is going to shut. Next thing you know, we got to get the doors open. So things like that, when I said we needed a Bachelor of Science, I told you every chair that was coming, I was on 3 church meetings for chairs. We need a Bachelor of Science. Oh, okay, I'll get it in. They get it done. Okay, I suggest you go to, right? We need a Bachelor of Science. Okay, Cynthia, this is what you need to do. Okay, boom, boom, boom. It's like, oh, you got the Bachelor of Science? Yes, because I'm from here, like other departments do. You see? And so that really has hurt us. But I always say, top-down racism hurt Black studies. Will we fight? We don't have to. So that's kind of, really the European model, divide and conquer. And so that has happened in Black studies.
All right, folks, I got a meeting right after this. Also, it was great having Dr. Robinson here. I've learned so much, but we know what we need to do. We need to be able to get more people into the campus. And with our Fatherhood Engagement Summit, we are being inclusive, so we have Native Americans that will be there. We have the student lead population that will be there. We also will have the Latino population. And we know how important fatherhood is to the educational growth of their children. I said the greatest revolution that we could ever do for fathers to go back and take their rightful place back home. So thank you so much, Dr. Robinson, and we out.